lack of certain activities.
Well, I think the thing that I found interesting in here that this was tied in with this, not just there's several chapters in here about Prophet Noble Ali, but it's tied in with the fact that there was a lot of, like you said, sorcery. I call it sorcery and debauchery and so people like the Dianetics movement and stuff, which now makes a lot of sense as to why maybe certain people are their people through clearing via Dianetics, because there's some early back in the 20s and 30s connection between that nation and this kind of movement. I mean, I didn't know how far it went back. I thought this was just something that came up in the 20th century, 21st, beginning of the 21st century. But no, there's a connection that goes way back.
The interesting thing that when you're looking at this stuff from a position of scholarship, you recognize the important role that Drew Ali played in American politics that's not credited to the platform. And also the fact that much of what work that he's done is absolutely civic in character, but not credited as being civic in character.
At least a religious organization.
Yes, the affidavit. See, this is why it's important for people to look at the affidavit on the back of the questionnaire. When you look at the affidavit on the back of the questionnaire, you'll see that the Moorish Science Temple of America was adopted with the religious affidavit in 1928. And that, when you start doing the research in the FBI papers, you'll recognize it was a counter move on his part to protect the movement from the infiltration that had already taken place. So when people, and this is why you won't see them talking about the Moorish Holy Temple of Science being a civic organization, which is clearly there. The literature from the Moorish Science Temple of America, when I read that before, like if you had that, you can see where the Moorish Holy Temple of Science is a civic organization. The religious affidavit was adopted in 1928. So the old Canaanite temple was established in 1913. And then when you look at the operations of the Wilson administration as a counter move on Jekyll Island, you understand the entirety of the politics. Absolutely. Then when you recognize the infiltration that took place in the 20s, right? You'll recognize when he set up the old Canaanite, Moorish Holy Temple of Science Civic Organization 25 and 26, and then you look into the corporation bankruptcies in 1925, and you see the United States Corporation at that time went bankrupt. And this is why a lot of people who don't understand the politics or understand the reality of the politics will sometimes say Noble Drew Ali bankrupted the United States. They understand that because the deal of it is because these people are de facto, and the real sovereign actually stood up. But the people also were in a process of learning. People still didn't know the true message of Noble Drew Ali. That part of it is the restoration of the estate and the true rulers of the land, i.e., which is the people who have been subjugated under the black codes. We even to this day keep thinking it's a religious argument. Don't even know it's an issue of birthright. But the more and more when you start doing research, when you start looking at it from a perspective of scholarship, like Peter Moon, other hybrid Europeans, etc., who are looking at it more objectively, even though some of them still may be using connotative linguistics, you understand that they're looking at it from a research perspective,
right?
Not from a clubism or necessarily a biased position. They're just looking at things that surprised them as they found out the real politics of North America. And it was kind of shocking to some of them because it's not what they expected. However, like he said, the more interesting thing is to recognize how many of the people of the land don't know this history, don't know this politics. But again, you know why we do what we do here at the House of Remake Their Minds. We try to share things with the people that wake them up, that have been held back by both hybrid Europeans and so-called black scholars. And it's really kind of like disheartening and disgusting, but you can't get disgusted You got to get the work done. You know how you say, don't complain about trash on the ground, pick it up.
Yeah, definitely
You know,
something that you live by.
and then you also understand why when you start giving this information, why trolls come out like roaches. Why? Because it changes the whole political paradigm that the people have been living under for decades, for a century. Actually, they don't know the real history of North America. And again, the politics. You see how people are arguing about the politics and they don't even know that these parties are the Whigamores? They don't know that the problems that they're having from these political parties is arguments within the Whigamores among themselves over your estate.
Yeah.
They don't even know that these black tags and stuff come from them. They don't even know that these hybrid Europeans aren't white people, that we're the white people. They traded places with these. That's why they did the movie Traded Places at Philadelphia, at Shakamatsu. That was strategic. That's a message. Even like we all know, why the mummer spray takes place. Only related to this. And how many people don't even know that the mummer spray operations are related to this?
And what was the other? Where's the other place? And the other one is the Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. And this is why in the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah.
When they ran us, and many of our families is from the Powhatan Confederation. You know, whether you're talking about the Seminole, the Washita, the talking about Matoaka. You know, the whole thing about Matoaka that they fake up and call Pocahontas, which is a fictional name. You know, and they're taking over and the Trail of Tears. You know, all of these are Moors. You know, and they separate us, making us think that we different people. Then they made up that term, that other term, Native American, African American, to twist us from each other, make us think that we're different people. Schism. All that is schism. All that is fiction. But the fact of the matter is, it's been operative among our own people, which is again why our people are disconnected from the land, disconnected from the treaties, disconnected from constitutional enforcement, because they don't see themselves. They don't even know it came from. However, it's good that some of the Europeans, hybrid Europeans, are telling the truth now, because it's in everybody's interest. Because now many of the hybrid, the dark, they might call themselves demon Satan worshippers, etc., and human sacrificers among the hybrid Europeans who've been destroying the planet and destroying the world. It's like it's in everybody's interest to start telling the truth now, and it actually seems like they're out to lunch. However, the reality is the truth must be told in order to bring humanity back to a point of civilization, so that civilization itself doesn't collapse under the corruption of the hybrid operators under the unum sanctum policy. Because the world, they've corrupted so many governments on the planet and destabilized the whole planet. Now it's sort of like it's in everybody's interest now to start telling the truth, and they've been lying for so many generations. They don't even know how to tell the truth right. However, some of them are starting to tell the truth. And there's some other points that Peter shared with the people that you feel that are relative to comprehending the operations of the cotton wigs and the consigns wigs and their battle over the Moorish estate. Share that.
I just think it's so much in this book. It needs to be. It would be a good thing for to have discussions over it and have others read it, because the way as he writes is a mixture of a
sort of like
theatrical
story
form, but truth.
Because it's really in harmony with in some ways with even like you see how a lot of the Moors, of course the country, some of the dances that they do, etc., the nature of the dance, the shaking of the shoulders, etc., the wiggling of the hips, the stepping, etc., the jumping, the kicking, etc. Those are ancient traditions, you know, and although the people may have forgotten some of the traditions or the nature of replication of acts or nature, the animals in nature, etc., and how nature works and the symbolism of the operations of nature, a lot of them forget that. However, when you start researching, you can still see the tracing back to the ancient world. A lot of things haven't changed in the different territories. You know, it's just that the people don't recognize their relationship to each other. But you know, that'll come together in due time. But again, as we were mentioning earlier, you know, it's important for people, just like Drew Ali said. Hopefully, you know, we can get rid of some of these ancient hatreds. But if the people don't know the histories, they have limited or no knowledge of how a lot of these hatreds have their origin. A lot of these distrusts have their origin. But when they know this real history, the politicians and the both local and federal and state can no longer fool the people because they understand their motives. Why it's important for the people to understand if they don't know the Wigamo Party and they're talking about these politics today, they're 90% wrong. Doesn't mean that they're lacking intelligence, they lack information. And so their concepts are wrong because the root of the information that was given to them is incorrect. However, having this knowledge also empowers our people to be more competent in their ongoing activities of taking their proper places among the affairs of men and reinstituting their obligations to enforce the supreme law of the land, which are the treaties and the Constitution for the United States, of which Donald Trump is in harmony with. And so people who are angry with him really need to know the history to kind of understand the politics. And that's not a sanctioning, and that's not, like I said before, I'm not saying or putting Donald Trump in front about anything, but the United States corporation is dead. Politically is dead. It's just that the people are still in a state of civil litter mortuus, of which we're doing the best that we can, along with others, to bring our people out of that state of civil litter mortuus and bringing them to a state of in full life activities, etc. And then from among our people, trusting that people with good intentions and with pure hearts will become active in reestablishing or activating the actual political forums by which we take our places among the affairs of men via their consular obligations in relationship to Act 1 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, etc., demonstrated via the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, etc., and activated properly with a cognizance of the civic platform from which that was constructed with the Moorish Holy Temple of Science as a ground of training and practice within our order, and then taken out into the world. When you take it out into the world, now you're in a consular venue via treaty and constitution, distinguished from internal affairs. So that would be international affairs, etc. And this is why it's important for people to really understand when Drali say enforce the Constitution, he's talking the treaties. Because our people think that the Constitution itself is the law, supreme law by itself. No, it's the treaties in the Constitution. That's why it's important for people to recognize Article 3, Article 4, Section 4, and Article 6, Supremacy Clause. Also, why in the nobility clauses, etc., of the Constitution, particularly when you talk an original article of Amendment 13 with its 20 section referred to as a 1320, why that's not exposed or taught to the people. And also the people need to recognize why Pharisees and Sadducees, by law, by fatwa, were not allowed to hold office in government as they were actually knights for the papacy after the Napoleonic Wars to overthrow all the republic orders, etc., and to enslave humanity, which has been taking place all around the world, and particularly rooted from North America, from Canaan land that you call Canada now, and the United States corporation operations, which are actually a singular operation appearing to be separate for the sake of the people, but in fact are both operated from the Circle Church and the Chancery of from Fleet Street, England, under the powers of the Popes of Rome, etc., and the Vatican's P2 Masons, etc. And keep in mind, do not confuse astrology, which is Masonry, as just belonging to the hybrid Europeans, although you see a lot of the damage that they've done on the world by misusing it or using it for dark purposes, etc. Actually, Masonry is more science, in fact. Now, that's also the truth that a lot of people aren't told, because it's always given a negative. And it's given a negative mainly because of people many who have belonged to the Freemason order under the Roman Curia have done so much damage to humanity. So they're looking at the Masonry as a principle of negativity, when it's not that. It is actually those who have misused the knowledge and held the knowledge back from the masses, and have actually mismanaged the operations of government around the planet for the purpose of world domination and hybrid European hegemony. That's the problem. So the real heirs to that knowledge, to the compass and the square, for those of you who may not have clarity because of limitation of time of some reference point, for those of you who have a Circle 7 Quran, read chapter 5 and also read chapter 23 and read chapter 47. And it would help you a lot in comprehending the philosophies of the Moors, etc., and also of what is commonly referred to in the Bible as the carpenter's tool, Jesus' carpenter's tool. And you know, Jesus means justice. And when it's presented biblically, it's an anthropomorphic presentment of the cosmos and the transits of the sun, and also cause and effect operations on planet Midgard, this particular planet we call Earth Midgard, etc. And our obligations here, while we are restoring proper stewardship of operations on the planet. There's some other points of reference you can make.
Yeah, because I've seen this every now and then, but here's one. Someone says, "Ha, stop with that consular madness. Go research the word and know it applies to foreigners on the soil of another."
Yes, it does. But that's because consular venue is where all treaties are enforced around the world.
There's some
That's a venue. That's not a court by itself. That's when a court changes venue when issues of controversy come about between citizens and nationals of different political states. So when you're talking states, you're also talking nations. So you're talking venue. That's all over the world. And anyone that has what you call a diversity of nationality, whenever there's an issue of nationality, this is another reason why many of the private POW camps have been tacked with Moors under the Christian Black Codes, because they've been held artificially in a dead status. And those persons among themselves who claim rulership or viziership or any positions of power were actually listing themselves under the 14th Amendment of civil rights instead of nationals or the people of the land, and enforcing international law. And all arguments were to be held in a consular venue. For those who doubt that, read Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution for the United States. And keep in mind, Noble Drew Ali said, "Help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States." And you'll find that in a divine warning by the prophet for the nations. So if you're nationalized, you do not operate under the black codes. Any controversy would be a cultural venue. That is a political venue. And any venue where controversy is held between people of different nation states would be a cultural venue. And that's a fact.
Thank you for that. Here, Curtis Jones says, I've read and I think he was referred to Noble Drew Ali, had a lot to do with nation slash state as well. When he died, the Vatican was the first, in quotes, to start right after using Drew Ali's groundwork.
Yeah. Well, of course, the major issue is this is why people need to know the history. That's like when we came into this, because we can't go through all of it. I say study the Napoleonic Wars from 1803 to 1815, because when they're teaching history of America, they do not include the Napoleonic Wars because they don't want people to tie back to Iberia, because you know that Iberia is Europe. Then when you know Iberia, then you trace back to Phoenicia, Nefertiti's daughter. Then you start recognizing Germany was actually Moorish. Then when you go into Iberian history, or what you call European history, you'll find that all the nobles were Moors. That's why a good book for those of you who have not been properly made erudite in the history of Iberia and America. One of the most awarded scholars in the world, named Joel A. Rogers, wrote a book called Nature Knows No Color Line, and started looking at the coats of arms of the real Picts and Moors, or nobles of Iberia or Europe, and she will see that they're all Moors, Aboriginal Moors. Not
no, second shelf. No, down. One more shelf down. Right there. Push back. Look back. The white book standing up.
Right.
See the white book? Behind